There are two types of men in this world. The first type? When someone disrespects him, he reacts immediately, loudly. He needs everyone to know he won't be disrespected. He'll argue, he'll defend, he'll fight. Because in his mind, every battle must be won. Every challenge must be answered. Every insult must be returned. And then there's the second type. When someone disrespects him, something different happens. He goes quiet. He looks at the person, calculates, and then he walks away. No explanation, no defense, no fight. And that silence, that calculated withdrawal, it terrifies people. Not because he's weak, but because they can't read him. They don't know if he's retreating or repositioning. They don't know if he thinks they're beneath his energy or if he's planning something they can't see. His absence becomes more powerful than any words he could have said. 500 years ago, two men understood this at a level that still makes people uncomfortable today. Niccolò Machiavelli, watching princes destroy themselves by fighting battles they shouldn't have. And Sun Tzu, teaching generals that the greatest victory is the battle you never fight. Today I'm going to teach you the most dangerous skill a man can possess. Not how to win every fight, but how to know which fights not to take. And why your ability to walk away without explanation, without anger, without needing to be understood, is what separates dangerous men from desperate ones. This isn't about being passive. This is about being precise. Let's begin. Sun Tzu wrote something in The Art of War that most people misunderstand. He said, "The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting." Now, most people read that and think it's about diplomacy, about negotiation, about finding peaceful solutions. That's not what he meant. What Sun Tzu understood, what every great strategist throughout history has understood, is that fighting itself is often the trap. The moment you engage, you've already given your opponent something valuable: your time, your energy, your attention, and most importantly, you've made yourself predictable. Think about it. When someone provokes you and you react, what have you just told them? You've told them exactly how to manipulate you. You've shown them the button they can press anytime they want a reaction. You've given them power. But when you don't engage, when you simply walk away, now you're dangerous because they can't predict you, they can't control you, they can't drain you. Sun Tzu goes further. He writes, "There are roads which must not be followed, armies which must not be attacked, towns which must not be besieged, positions which must not be contested." Listen to that carefully. He's not saying there are battles you might lose. He's saying there are battles you should never fight, not because you can't win, but because fighting itself is the wrong move. The greatest generals in Chinese history won their campaigns not by winning every battle, but by avoiding the battles that didn't serve their ultimate objective. They understood something that weak men never grasp. Every engagement has a cost, even if you win. Now jump forward to Renaissance Italy. Machiavelli is watching the political chaos of Florence, families destroying each other, leaders fighting over every insult, every slight, every challenge to their authority, and he sees the pattern. The princes who felt they had to answer every challenge, they exhausted themselves. They made enemies everywhere. They fought so many small battles that when the real war came, they had nothing left. But the princes who knew when to let things go, who understood that some fights weren't worth their energy, they conserved their power. They chose their battles. And when they did engage, they did so with overwhelming force because they hadn't wasted themselves on meaningless conflicts. Machiavelli writes, "A prince must have no other objective, no other thought, nor take up any profession but that of war." But here's what people miss. He's not saying fight constantly, he's saying think strategically always. And strategy often means not fighting. The weak prince fights every battle because his ego demands it. The strong prince fights only the battles that matter because his strategy demands it. This is the skill, strategic withdrawal. And it's the one thing that separates men who are genuinely formidable from men who are just loud. Now let's talk about why most men will never master this. It comes down to one thing: ego. A weak man's ego is fragile. It needs constant validation, constant defense, constant proof that he matters. So when someone disrespects him, his ego interprets it as a threat to his very existence. And he has to respond, not because it's strategic, but because he psychologically cannot handle the idea of someone thinking less of him. Watch this play out anywhere. Social media is the perfect laboratory. Someone leaves a critical comment. A weak man will spend the next hour crafting responses, defending himself, explaining his position, getting into an argument with someone whose profile picture is an anime character. Why? Because he needs that person, that stranger who means nothing to him, to understand him, to validate him, to acknowledge that he's right. And what has he just done? He's given a nobody the power to dictate how he spends his time and energy. A dangerous man reads the same comment. Maybe he smiles. Maybe he doesn't even finish reading it, and then he moves on. Not because he's avoiding conflict, but because he's made a calculation. This person doesn't matter. This battle doesn't serve me. My absence is my answer. And here's what happens next. The person who left that comment, they're confused. They expected a fight, they wanted a reaction, and they got nothing. Now they're thinking about him, wondering why he didn't respond, wondering if he even saw it, wondering if they matter so little that he couldn't even be bothered. His silence just became more powerful than any argument could have been. This shows up everywhere in modern life. The workplace. Weak men get drawn into every office drama, every petty dispute, every political game. They think they're fighting for respect, but really they're just exhausting themselves and proving they can be baited. Strong men? They see the same drama and they opt out. Not publicly, not with some announcement about taking the high road. They just don't participate. And suddenly, people start to wonder, why doesn't he care? What does he know that I don't? Is he above this? Is he planning something? Relationships are even more revealing. A woman tests a weak man. Maybe she picks a fight over something small. Maybe she withdraws attention. Maybe she flirts with someone else to get a reaction. And what does he do? He reacts. He gets emotional. He fights for her attention. He needs her to know he cares. And what has he just proven? That she can manipulate him, that he's controllable, that his emotions are her puppet strings. A dangerous man in the same situation? He goes quiet. He pulls back, not as a game, not as manipulation, but as a genuine assessment. Is this person adding value to my life or subtracting from it? And if the answer is subtracting, he withdraws his attention completely. And now she's the one wondering. She expected a fight. She expected him to chase. Instead, he just disappeared. And that absence hits harder than any argument ever could. Here's the truth that weak men can't accept. You don't owe anyone a reaction. You don't owe anyone your energy. You don't owe anyone an explanation for why you're choosing not to engage. Your time and attention are your most valuable resources, and the moment you let someone else dictate how you spend them, especially someone who doesn't deserve them, you've already lost.
So let's dig into why strategic withdrawal actually creates power. First, understand this. Humans are wired to need closure. We need to know where we stand. We need to understand why things happen. And when we don't get that, our brains go into overdrive trying to figure it out. When you engage with someone, even in conflict, you're giving them closure. You're giving them your attention, your reasoning, your emotional state. They get to understand you, and understanding is the first step to control. But when you withdraw without explanation, you've created a vacuum, and human psychology abhors a vacuum. So what do? They fill it with speculation, with anxiety, with obsession. Let me give you an example. Two men have a conflict. The first man fights back, argues, defends himself. Eventually, it blows over. Everyone moves on. The conflict is resolved. The second man, he just looks at his opponent. Maybe he nods slightly, and then he walks away. No words, no emotion, just gone. Which man do you think the opponent is still thinking about 6 months later? The first man gave closure. The conflict had a beginning, middle, and end. It's done. The second man created a question mark that never got answered. Did I win? Did he not care? Is he planning something? Why didn't he fight back? What does he know that I don't? That question mark lives rent-free in the opponent's head forever. This is what Machiavelli understood about power. He wrote, "It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." But here's the deeper insight. Fear comes from uncertainty. People fear what they can't predict, what they can't understand, what they can't control. Your willingness to engage makes you predictable. Your withdrawal makes you a mystery, and mysteries are dangerous. Sun Tzu said, "All warfare is based on deception. Appear weak when you are strong, and strong when you are weak." Strategic withdrawal is the ultimate deception, because it looks like retreat. It looks like you're avoiding conflict. But what you're actually doing is refusing to play their game. You're operating on a different level entirely. Think about the most powerful people you know. Not the loudest, not the ones always in conflict, but the genuinely powerful ones. How do they handle disrespect? They go quiet. They become unavailable. They remove access. And that removal of access, that withdrawal of their presence, their attention, their energy, it's devastating. Because here's the secret. Your presence is only valuable if you're willing to withdraw it. If you're always available, always engaging, always reacting, then your presence means nothing. It's guaranteed. It's cheap. But a man who can disappear, a man who can walk away from conflict, from drama, from people who don't serve him, his presence becomes rare, valuable, sought after. And when he does choose to engage, people pay attention because they know he doesn't waste his energy on things that don't matter. This is why strategic withdrawal terrifies people. Because it reveals something they don't want to face. They might not matter to you as much as they thought they did. And that realization, that they can't manipulate you, can't control you, can't even get a reaction from you, it's devastating to their ego. Your silence becomes a mirror that reflects their own insignificance. Now, here's where we get tactical. Because strategic withdrawal doesn't mean you never fight. It means you fight with precision. You engage when it serves your purpose. You withdraw when engagement would cost more than it's worth. So how do you know the difference? Sun Tzu gives us the framework. He talks about 5 factors you must assess before any engagement. The way, the weather, the terrain, the leadership, and discipline. Translated to modern life, you're asking, first, what's the actual objective here? Not the surface conflict, but what's really at stake? If someone insults you on social media, what's at stake? Your ego. That's it. Nothing real. Nothing that affects your life, your income, your relationships that matter. So you withdraw. But if someone is actively trying to damage your reputation to people who can affect your career, now there's something real at stake. Now, engagement might be necessary. Second, what are the conditions? Do you have the high ground? Machiavelli was obsessed with this. Never fight on your enemy's terrain, under their conditions, using their weapons. If someone is trying to drag you into an argument on their turf, their platform, their audience, their framework, you withdraw. You don't win by playing their game. You win by refusing to play. Third, what's the cost of engagement versus the cost of withdrawal? Every fight costs something. Time, energy, emotional bandwidth, reputation sometimes. Is what you gain from this fight worth more than what you spend? If not, you withdraw. Fourth, are you emotionally compromised? If you're angry, if you're hurt, if you're reactive, you withdraw. Always. Because decisions made from emotion are almost always wrong. Strategic withdrawal gives you time to cool off, to think clearly, to decide if this is even worth coming back to. Here's a truth that will save you years of wasted energy. 90% of conflicts that feel urgent in the moment are completely irrelevant a week later. That argument you almost had doesn't matter. That disrespect you almost responded to, nobody remembers. That battle you almost fought wouldn't have changed anything. Strategic withdrawal is giving yourself time to let urgency fade so you can see clearly.
Now, when do you engage? You engage when the stakes are real and the conditions favor you. When something you're building is genuinely threatened. When someone crosses a line that, if left unchallenged, will invite further violations. When you have the advantage and can end it decisively. Notice the difference. Weak men engage reflexively, based on emotion. Strong men engage strategically, based on calculation.
Let me give you a real example. A man is building a business. A competitor starts spreading lies about him. First instinct, fight back publicly, defend himself, set the record straight. But a strategic man asks, will my public response give this more attention than it deserves? Will I look defensive? Will I be giving my competitor exactly what they want, my attention and my audience? Maybe the strategic move is to say nothing publicly and let your work speak for itself. Maybe it's to address it quietly with the people who actually matter. Maybe it's to document everything and prepare for legal action if needed. Maybe it's to let your competitor exhaust themselves while you keep building. The point is, you're choosing. You're not reacting, you're calculating. And sometimes the calculation is the most powerful move is no move at all. Sun Tzu, to win 100 victories in 100 battles, is not the acme of skill. To subdue the enemy without fighting is the acme of skill. Your ability to walk away from fights you don't need to have is the highest form of strategic thinking. So, how do you develop this skill? Because it is a skill. It's not natural. Your ego will fight you every step of the way. Level 1. Train yourself to pause. When someone provokes you, when conflict arises, when you feel that urge to react, stop. Count to 10. Take a breath. Ask yourself one question. Does this matter tomorrow? Not, am I right? Not, should I defend myself? But, does this actually matter? Most of the time the answer is no. And that pause, that moment of self-control, is where your power lives. That's the moment you choose strategy over ego. Level 2. Practice small withdrawals. Don't start with the big stuff, start small. Someone says something stupid in a group chat, don't respond. Someone tries to bait you into an argument online, scroll past. Someone at work tries to drag you into drama. Smile and say, I'm staying out of this one. Each time you successfully withdraw from something that doesn't matter, you're building the muscle. You're training yourself that your attention is valuable, and not everyone deserves it. Level 3. Master the art of disappearing. This is where it gets powerful. When someone is toxic, draining, manipulative, you don't have a conversation about it. You don't explain yourself. You don't give them closure. You just become less available, slowly, quietly, until one day they realize you're gone. No drama, no announcement, no burning bridges publicly, just strategic distance. And here's what happens. They'll notice. They'll reach out. They'll ask what's wrong. And this is the critical moment, because your instinct will be to explain, to have the conversation, to give them the chance to understand. Don't, because explaining is engaging, And engaging with people who've proven they don't deserve your energy is the trap. Instead, you keep it simple. Just been busy, taking care of some things, vague, non-committal, true enough that it's not a lie, but revealing nothing. And then you stay disappeared. Level 4, learn to be comfortable with their discomfort. This is the hardest part, because when you withdraw, people get uncomfortable. They'll call you cold, they'll say you're running away, they'll accuse you of being afraid to engage, they'll try everything to provoke you back into the fight.
And you have to be okay with that. You have to be comfortable letting them be uncomfortable. Letting them think whatever they want to think. Letting them fill the silence with their own narrative. Because the moment you explain yourself, the moment you defend your decision to withdraw, you've re-engaged. And you've lost. Your withdrawal only works if it's complete, if it's final, if you're unmoved by their attempts to pull you back in. Machiavelli would tell you, they can call you whatever they want. As long as they can't control you, you win. Level 5. Strategic re-engagement. Here's the advanced move. Sometimes you withdraw not permanently, but strategically. You disappear to create space, to shift the power dynamic, to make them realize what they lose when you're not there. And then, when the conditions are right, when they've had time to feel your absence, when the power dynamic has shifted in your favor, you return, on your terms, with your boundaries clear. This is the move that destroys people, because they thought you were gone. They thought they won, and then you come back, but different, more distant, less invested. And now they're the ones trying to get back what they had. But you'll never give it back, because you've learned the most important lesson. Your presence is a gift, not a guarantee.
Let me paint you two pictures. First picture. A man who fights every battle. He's constantly in conflict, constantly defending himself, constantly explaining, constantly engaging with people who don't matter. He thinks he's strong because he never backs down. But look at him. He's exhausted, he's scattered, he's always reacting, never acting. He's given control of his life to everyone who knows how to push his buttons. Second picture. A man who chooses his battles, who knows when to engage and when to walk away, who can be disrespected and remain unmoved, who can watch conflict swirl around him and choose not to participate. He's calm, focused. His energy is conserved for the things and people that actually matter. And people are terrified of him, not because he fights, but because he doesn't need to. Which man do you want to be? Because here's the truth Machiavelli and Sun Tzu understood. Power isn't about winning every battle. Power is about fighting only the battles that matter, on terrain that favors you, when conditions are right. Everything else, you walk away. And that walking away, that strategic withdrawal, that refusal to engage, that comfortable silence in the face of provocation, that's what separates dangerous men from desperate ones. The desperate man needs every battle because he needs constant validation that he matters. The dangerous man walks away from most battles because he already knows he matters. And he's not going to waste his finite energy proving it to people whose opinions don't affect his life. So here's your assignment. For the next week, practice this. When someone tries to bait you,
don't take it. When drama erupts, don't participate. When you feel that urge to defend yourself, to explain, to react, pause. Ask yourself, does this matter? Does this person deserve my energy? Does this battle serve me? And if the answer is no, walk away, silently, completely, without explanation. Watch what happens. Watch how it feels to conserve your energy instead of scattering it. Watch how people's perception of you shifts when you stop being predictable. Watch how powerful silence can be when you choose it strategically. Because Machiavelli was right. It's better to be feared than loved. And Sun Tzu was right. The supreme art of war is to subdue the enemy without fighting. Put them together and you get this. The most dangerous thing you can do is master the art of strategic withdrawal. Not because you're weak, but because you're so strong you don't need to prove it to everyone who questions it. While weak men fight every battle and exhaust themselves into irrelevance, you'll be the man who walks away from what doesn't serve him. And that terrifies people because they can't control you. They can't predict you. They can't drain you. Your silence becomes your power. Your absence becomes your weapon. Your discipline becomes your shield. That's the silent skill. That's what Machiavelli and Sun Tzu knew. And now you know it too. The question is, do you have the strength to walk away?